Okay, let's go to 24 through 21.
Okay. 24. I have Drew Lock, then Sam Darnold at 23. So you and I were pretty close there. 22, I have Teddy Bridgewater, and 21, I have Jared Goff. So yeah, those are my four there. And if I could just touch on why I had Burrow below Tua Tagovailoa, this is inherent bias on my part. I liked Tua better as a prospect than Burrow. I think both are going to be fantastic, but if Tua hadn't gotten hurt, I might have taken him number one over Burrow. So I will continue to rank him slightly ahead of him just for the future until we see what happens. But generally, I almost always rank first year starters back to back unless different situations dictate that I do something else.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see the argument there. I think you're right that Tua, it's tough to say. Like it would have been very close. I wish we had kind of like a time machine and like to kind of save Tua from getting injured so we could see what would happen in the draft to like who would be first. It's a close call. I mean, like Burrow's season was amazing, and he looked like Drew Brees with mobility, and I think that's the upside he has. So I don't know. It's a tough call. I could see it either way. So I have my 24 through 21 is 24 Nick Foles and 23 Jared Goff. So we're close there. And then I have 22 Kirk Cousins and 21 Jimmy Garoppolo. So Cousins, Garoppolo, you did not have in your 24 to 21. So you think they're top 20 quarterbacks. I could definitely see the argument with Cousins. Like he posts like great numbers all the time. And the stigma with him is that he like tends to lose in the clutch, but he kind of came through last year. Like he beat the Saints in the playoffs. He had a big win against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, which people made a big deal of. I actually didn't think that was a big deal because I didn't think the Cowboys are that good. But I mean, the win against the Saints in the playoffs in New Orleans was a big deal. And then he kind of laid an egg in the next week. And I think people kind of forgot about that. But I don't like Cousins. I think he makes some very boneheaded decisions sometimes. I don't trust him. I think he's very mediocre. But you covered him, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts about him.
Yeah, so you absolutely hit the nail on the head. He makes some boneheaded plays. He loses in the clutch sometimes. I think like you said, he's shown better in the clutch lately with that win in New Orleans. I have him slightly higher just because he's prone to something that I like to call the Flacco Dalton trait, which is a quarterback who's like kind of a middle of the pack type dude who will just for like 3 to 5 games play like on fire, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and then we'll come back and lay an egg like randomly after that stretch and kind of regress to being mediocre again. So I tend to value those guys slightly higher. I get the consistency is massive at quarterback, but I don't have a problem with Cousins being outside the top 20, but I kind of find it hard to believe that you have some of the guys that you have ahead of him. Just in my opinion. Like, I think you have Joe Burrow way higher than I do. And like, I don't mean to hate on Joe Burrow, but I think that rookies are going to struggle this year in general. And I think like he had a fantastic year last year, but he was really a 1-year wonder. So I think he's going to take some time to develop at the next level. So, but yeah, you'll soon see where I have Cousins coming in. And, but I can understand why you're lower on him for sure.
Let's just talk about Burrow, I guess. We'll see where I have him soon. I love Burrow as a player coming in. I understand what you're saying about rookies struggling this year because the pandemic and everything, like they can't practice as much. But I think Burrow has an advantage over the other rookie quarterbacks because the Bengals spent so much time with him ahead of the draft. And like they maximized their allotted meetings with him every single week. And like people are looking at that and they're like, what are they doing? Like, why are they meeting with him so much? And it was because they're working on installing the offense with him like back in late February. Like that's how much they loved him. So he has kind of a jump start in that fashion. Like I know that it's not real on field in practice action, but I think it does help a little bit. And I think with his like great accuracy and mobility, I think that'll help him progress as a rookie. So I'm pretty high on Burrow. I like him a lot. So I guess we'll see what happens. So Garoppolo is someone you don't have, someone you have in your top 20. Actually, I'm kind of interested to hear where you have him. So I guess don't spoil it yet, but I don't understand this guy at all. Like he was 44th in the NFL top 100. And you have him higher than me. I feel like maybe I'm wrong about Garoppolo. Like everyone else is right about him. But I just don't see it with him. I think he holds the ball way too long. It takes him way too long to make decisions. He's come through in the clutch sometimes. Like I'll give him credit for that, and he looks great on occasion. But I think he's so inconsistent, and I just don't think he's there mentally.
Yeah, I'm going to say that we have Garoppolo ranked very, very, very close to each other. So I don't think you're going to be that surprised where he ended up for me. But in defense of Garoppolo, I really like his skill set. And I think this is kind of something that people forget about. We love to harp on, Patrick Mahomes has only been a starter for 2 years. Well, in his career, Jimmy Garoppolo has 26 regular season starts and 3 playoff starts. So he started a total of 29 games. He's still very much a developing product. Now, I don't think he deserves to be top 50 in the NFL. Ryan Tannehill has even less credence of being on that list. Just to get back to that, that list was terrible. I can't deal with how the players overvalue quarterbacks anymore. It bothers me. But Garoppolo hasn't turned 29 yet. I get your point. He holds the ball too long. And he has some times where he makes like bad decisions and throws interceptions. I think when we saw him at his best, those first 5 games with the 49ers, he wasn't thinking that much. He was just reacting. He was reading the field. When he saw someone open, he threw it. He didn't worry about that. And that was the best stretch he's had in his life. I think if he gets back to that, and further removed from an ACL tear, I think he'll be better off. And maybe more comfortable on that leg. I think he'll have a good chance to kind of reach his ceiling. I think his ceiling is kind of as a, maybe a top 15 quarterback. Like I don't think he'll ever be elite or anything. But if he can use his ability to read the field and just, get comfortable more than anything else, he's already taken a very talented team to the Super Bowl and won 2 rings as a backup. So I think that in the future, he could be a quality starter for a playoff team.
Yeah, I just can't get over how bad he was in the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter. It's just maybe that played into it, why I have him outside the top 20. Before we move on to the top 20, I saw you at Bridgewater at 22, which was shocking to me because you love Bridgewater as a quarterback who covers the spread. So why Bridgewater so low?
There are 2 reasons for it. One, I don't think the Panthers are going to be great this year. They don't have a bad offense, and they added a lot of talent to defense, but I don't trust the coaching staff yet. And I think Bridgewater, that's kind of not the situation I would want him to be going into at this point with a staff with such little NFL experience. And the other thing is, I think Teddy Bridgewater is a rock solid quarterback in terms of being a game manager, but I think his ceiling, his ceiling is kind of low. He's a very high floor, low ceiling type player. So again, he's a guy who I could envision maybe he's a top 16 quarterback in the league. Maybe he's the 15th best, but I don't think he ever gets to that top 12 territory where it's he's leading a team to he could start on a playoff team, but I don't think he's the reason that they're getting to the playoffs. So I view him as more of a game manager. I love him for the purposes of betting. He always covers the spread, which is going to make Carolina maddening this year because I'm going to bet against them a lot, and then they're going to cover the spread all the time. I know myself well enough to know that. But, I think Teddy Bridgewater is a great guy also, and I think the resilience he's shown coming back from that knee injury is extremely valuable too. It just shows you that, he has high character and the football toughness needed from a quarterback. So there's a lot I like about him. I just don't think that he has a super high ceiling as a passer.
I agree. He doesn't have a high ceiling for sure. I've gotten yelled at by so many Viking fans who are like, how can you have Bridgewater over Cousins? And I'd rather have Bridgewater. I'm sorry. I totally agree that the ceiling isn't there. But I don't know. I just don't trust Cousins.